Unlike in previous versions, Google Analytics 4 offers some built-in event tracking capabilities called Enhanced Measurement. But what if you want to track some additional events? In this video, we'll take a look at how to track events with Google Analytics 4 and Google Tag Manager. Hey, my name is Julius and welcome to Analytics Mania, where you can learn Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. And if you want to be up to date with Google Analytics 4, subscribe to this channel. By default, GA4 is capable of tracking scrolling, YouTube video interactions, outbound link clicks, searches, and several other events. But you should not limit yourself just with those events. For example, did you know that built-in scroll tracking in Google Analytics 4 tracks only those interactions where visitor scrolls below 90% of the page height? But what if you want to track other thresholds as well? For example, 25%, 50%, 75%. And what if you want to track custom events like form submissions, logins, and others? For that, you will need to use Google Tag Manager, and I'll show you how to send events with it. You could also cooperate with developers if your analytics is installed with GTAG.js, but on my channel, I focus more on Google Tag Manager because of its flexibility. So let's dive in. Together with this video tutorial, I have also created an accompanying guide that you can find in the description of this video. So if you want to learn even more about event tracking with Google Analytics 4, check out that guide as well. And also, I just wanted to emphasize that this tutorial focuses more on the setup of event tracking with Google Analytics 4. I will not dive deep into analysis. I will just briefly show the places where you can find that data, and that's about it. Also, make sure you stick around till the end of this video because I will give some additional tips on how to structure your events in Google Analytics 4. And additionally, I will give you a little spreadsheet that should help you to achieve that faster. Or maybe at least it will give you some inspiration and ideas how to plan your event tracking structure in Google Analytics 4. Also, if you are new to Google Analytics 4 and previously you were working with Universal Analytics, which is the older version of GA, I have created a tutorial explaining why, when, and how should you upgrade to Google Analytics 4. I will post a link to that tutorial below the video. Also, in this video, I presume that you have installed Google Analytics 4 on your website. So this means that you already have the GA4 configuration tag in your Google Tag Manager container. If not, then I will post another link below the video to a tutorial on how to install Google Analytics 4. So if you haven't installed GA4 yet, pause this video and do so. All the resources that you need will be in the description of this video. Speaking of event tracking in Google Analytics 4, here are the topics that I'm going to explore in this video. First, I will mention some of the automatically tracked events in Google Analytics 4. Then I will also briefly explain what is enhanced measurement and what kind of events does it send to Google Analytics. Then I'm going to talk about recommended events in Google Analytics 4. And if you have some custom event that is not covered by any of these three event categories, then I will show you how to send custom events to Google Analytics. Also, there are some options how you can create new or modify existing events, and you can do that in Google Analytics 4 interface. So I'm going to briefly explain what is create new events feature and modify events feature. If you want to jump just to a certain topic of this video, I will add timestamps in the description of this video. All right, we have a lot of things to cover, so let's get started. But first, here's a quick note. If you are familiar with older versions of Google Analytics, you know that when you send an event to Google Analytics, you must send event category, event action, and optionally you can send event label and event value. Well, in Google Analytics 4, they are no longer available. This means that if you want to send an event, it is enough just to send the event name. And if you want to send some additional parameters, you can name them whatever you want. For example, if a form is submitted, then you can send a parameter, an additional parameter that is called form type, or I don't know, something else. There is no need to use or to have parameters that are called event category, event action, and event label. So in other words, these parameters are now retired. And if you are migrating from the old version of Google Analytics, for example, Universal Analytics, to a new version, which is Google Analytics 4, it is not recommended to just blindly create three custom parameters to an event and call those parameters category, action, and label. Now is a good time for you to rethink your naming convention and the structure of your events. But before you're able to do that, first let's get down to the fundamentals of event tracking in Google Analytics 4. First, let's start with several automatically tracked events that will be sent to Google Analytics 4 automatically by your tracking tags. When a visitor lands on your site for the first time, Google Analytics 4 will get an event which is called First Session. Also, at the same time, there will be another event which is called Session Start. And every time a visitor comes back to your website, a new Session Start event will be initiated. There's also another event which is called User Engagement, but it is a bit mysterious right now. I mean, as of the moment of recording this video, because I could not find super precise information about this event, but it looks like it fires after 10 seconds have passed on your website. I mean, when the visitor spends 10 seconds on your website, but there are some things that are still unclear to me. So what I would recommend is that you could take a look at the blog post below the video. I mean, if you're watching this video sometime in the future, then maybe by that moment I will have answers about what exactly does this event mean and when exactly does it fire. Then let's talk about another category of events, which is called enhanced measurement. If you log into your Google Analytics 4 property and you go to the admin, you should then click data streams in the property column and select the data stream of the website that is sending data to your property. So click it, and here you will see a section called enhanced measurement. So enhanced measurement basically is responsible for some of the additional automatic event tracking capabilities. There are several events that can be tracked automatically for you. So this means that you don't have to do that manually with Google Tag Manager or ask a developer to implement that for you. First, to make sure that enhanced measurement is enabled in your data stream, you should check this toggle right here. It should be blue if it is enabled. And then you can configure the actual events right here by clicking this gear icon. So click it. And right here, you can see that the page views cannot be disabled. So for example, if you don't want to track scroll events, you can disable them right here. And also some of the events have some additional configuration right here. For example, on the page views, you can click show advanced option, and then you can choose whether you want to track when browser history events fire or not. Browser history events usually apply for single page websites or single page applications, and they happen when the URL of the page changes while the actual page did not reload. So this means that maybe a visitor was moved to a certain part of the website, or maybe some content was loaded dynamically. The most important thing here is that there was a URL change even though the page did not reload. But if you don't want to track these events, you can disable them by clicking this checkbox. Then speaking of scroll events, this event fires when a visitor reaches the 90% threshold of your page. Then we have outbound links. So outbound links basically are links that are clicked on your website and they redirect your visitor to another domain. If your business operates on several domains and you don't want to treat those domains as external resources or outbound links, you can close the enhanced measurement right here. Then scroll down to the tagging settings section, click it, and then click configure your domains. In this list, you should enter domains that belong to your business, and those domains will not be counted as outbound link clicks. Also, this page is related to the cross-domain configuration, but let's keep that topic for another video. All right, so let's go back to the enhanced measurement. I will then once again click this gear icon right here. Then we have site search. If a visitor performs a site search on your website and during that search, the URL of the website contains a certain query parameter, and that query parameter contains the search query, the actual search keyword that your visitor is using, then that can be tracked as a search event, and that event can be sent to your Google Analytics property. However, websites are different and their search functionalities are different. So the query parameter on one website might look like this. Here you can see that the search query is GTM and the query parameter is just one letter, which is S. On some websites, that query might be a letter Q, or maybe the word search or query or something else. So if you want to configure that query parameter and specifically instruct Google Analytics to keep looking for that particular parameter in the URL, you should click show advanced settings right here, and then you should enter all the possible query parameters that are related to the search query on your website. So in my case, the query parameter S would have done the job, and you should separate each parameter with a comma. Then we also have video engagement, but that video engagement is only for embedded YouTube video players, and also those YouTube videos should have the JavaScript API enabled in the source code, and unfortunately that doesn't always happen. And since there are very many nuances related to YouTube video tracking on your website, this video engagement event will not cover all the situations. So in many cases, you still might need to work with Google Tag Manager. And last but not least, we also have file downloads. If a visitor clicks a link and that link is related to a certain file, then Enhanced Measurement will send an event about that clicked link to Google Analytics. Here are the file formats that are currently supported by the file download feature in Enhanced Measurement. I don't know, maybe in the future this list will be extended, but right now these file extensions are automatically tracked. So if you are interested in tracking some additional file extensions, then you will need to manually configure that with Google Tag Manager. So when you select which events do you want to track and you click Save, make sure once again that this toggle is enabled. And once you do that, Google Analytics 4 will start automatically tracking these events. They will be sent to your property. There is no need to publish anything in Google Tag Manager or do something else. They will be tracked automatically once you hit that Save button and then once you enable this toggle. So once you enable the enhanced measurement in your property, you probably want to check whether the data is actually coming in. So you can go right here in the bottom left corner of the GA4 interface, you will see the debug view. But if you want to start seeing some data right here, you need to enable the debug mode of Google Analytics. And there are several options how you can do that. If you're working with Google Tag Manager, and I hope you do because you're watching my video, then the easiest way to do that is just to have the preview mode enabled in Google Tag Manager. What happens is that when you have enabled the preview mode in GTM, it automatically adds an additional parameter, which is called debug mode, to every hit that is sent to Google Analytics 4. And then as a result, you will start seeing Google Analytics 4 events in the debug view. And also there are several other options how you can enable the debug mode in Google Analytics. What you need to know right now is that debug mode in Google Analytics is different from the preview mode in Google Tag Manager. So if you want to learn the difference, and if you want to learn other options how you can enable the debug mode in Google Analytics 4, take a look at that very same event tracking blog post that you will find in the description of this video. So to enable the preview mode in Google Tag Manager, you need to obviously log into GTM interface, then click preview, then enter the URL of the website where you are trying to implement event tracking with Google Analytics 4. I have already done that, and then click start. Then in a new window or a new tab, your website will appear and you can browse and click various links, scroll, do whatever you want, and then you will start seeing your device right here. I can click on that event and I can see, let's say, the page location. So this is my current URL right here. If you cannot see your event here, then there might be some temporary issues with Google Analytics 4, especially if you are watching this video in 2020. Because for example, when I create a new property, I notice that there is some sort of delay when I start sending some data to that property. But if the property has been created, let's say, I don't know, several days ago, then it suddenly starts working properly. I'm not sure like if this is a temporary bug or if this is how things are going to work from now on. I'm not sure about that, but just keep in mind that there is some patience needed when you're working with the Google Analytics 4, at least in 2020. But I hope that this will be improved in the future. So we can see that the page view has been fired. Then also I have refreshed the page. So this is another page view. And since the page URL contains the search query, our enhanced measurement has automatically sent the view search results event as well. I can click it and I can see the search term. So the GA4 has automatically taken that search query from the URL and it has sent as a separate parameter with the event. Also, if I, let's say, scroll to the very bottom of the page, we could see another event that is named scroll. So let's wait. And here it is. We have some scroll events. The reason why I'm having 4 events is because I have made some additional configurations in Google Tag Manager. So one of these events is sent by the enhanced measurement, and then the other 3 are sent from Google Tag Manager. Later, these events will be available in the All Events section right here, like scroll, video start, video complete, and other events. If you want, you can, for example, click on it and then see more granular data about that particular event. Of course, at the moment, I mean in late 2020, the reporting capabilities in Google Analytics 4 are still quite limited, but I believe that in the near future, the basic reporting will be improved. The next category of events is recommended events. So if you have some event in mind and you want to track it with Google Analytics 4, Google highly recommends that you use their naming convention, because in the future, that should unlock some additional reporting, and in general, Google will better understand what kind of events are you sending and what do they represent. In the description of this video, I will post a link to a page where you will find the recommended events. So here are some generic recommended events such as login, purchase, sign up, tutorial begin, and also on the right side of this page, you will find some of the recommended events for certain industries. For example, for retail and e-commerce, for job, education, local deals and real estate websites, for travel, and then for games. So for example, if we click on retail e-commerce, you will find some additional events right here, such as add to cart, purchase, refund. Basically, these are related to e-commerce tracking. So for example, if you want to properly implement e-commerce tracking, you should follow this naming convention. So this means that the name of the event should be exactly like this. And if you want to send some additional data like coupon, currency, what kind of items were included in the checkout, then you should use these exact properties named like this. Because for example, if you sent a purchase event with some purchase data, but the name of the event was purchase completed instead of purchase, then Google Analytics would not be able to understand that this is actually a purchase, and that event would not be displayed in e-commerce reports of Google Analytics 4. So this is very important, that if you have an event and you want to track it with Google Analytics 4, and that event is mentioned among recommended events, then you should follow Google's naming convention. Let's try to track one of the recommended events with Google Analytics 4. So let's say that I have a login page and I want to track every time when a user logs in to his or her account. So first of all, let's take a look at the list of recommended events and see if I can find anything relevant to login. So I go to the list of all recommended events. If I cannot find it right here, then I will be looking at other sections on the right side. But first, let's look at all properties. And I can see that there is a login event right here. So I could use that in my event tracking. So let's go to Google Tag Manager and implement that login tracking. In Google Tag Manager, I have already created a GA4 configuration tag where I don't have any additional configuration except the measurement ID, and I have kept this setting enabled. So this means that when the tag fires, it will automatically send the page view event as well. If you have no idea where did I get this measurement ID right here, you can find it in the admin of your GA4 property. Go to data streams, click on the stream name, and then copy this measurement ID right here. Then choose the GA4 configuration tag type and paste that measurement ID, and then fire this tag on all pages. So this is a prerequisite that I have done before I have started recording this video. Now the time has come to track logins. So first let's check how the login is actually working. First, let's enable the preview mode in my Google Tag Manager container. This is the container that is installed on this website. Then I will copy the URL and enter that URL in the Tag Assistant pop-up, click Start. And then the login page opens right here. I see that the debugger is connected. Also, I see that it is connected right here. So now let's log in and check how things are working. Then click Login. A new page has opened. This is just a fake page. This is a dummy page, so don't worry that it does not look like a real account. This is just for demonstration purposes. So once I have logged in, then I go to Tag Assistant and then see that there is another page view. This was the first page view. This is the second page view. And then on the second page view, I have a data layer event, which is called Login. This has happened because I have asked a developer to push the login information about the user and about the actual login event to the data layer. So if I expand it, I will see that this was the information that was pushed to the data layer. The event, which is login, and then user ID, and this is the ID of the user that has currently logged in right here. In this video, I will not dive deeper into the user ID tracking because that's a topic for another video, but right now let's focus just on the login event itself. So since I have the login event in the data layer, the first thing that I need to do is that I need to create a trigger for this custom event right here. So I go to Google Tag Manager, I go to triggers, then I go to new, trigger configuration, and then enter custom event. And then I insert login right here, because this is the value of the parameter event in the data layer push right here. Then let's name the trigger. Now, since we have created a trigger, the final piece is to create a tag, the event tag, that will send the login event to Google Analytics 4. And we can do that by clicking new, tag configuration, and GA4 event. Now in this tag, first we need to choose to which exact Google Analytics property do we want to send the data. Since I have already created a Google Analytics 4 configuration tag and that tag contains the property ID, I can just select that configuration tag right here. So this means that this event tag will reuse the settings from that particular configuration tag. Then in the event name field, I should enter the word login. Exactly lowercase without any additional words, symbols, or whatever, just login. That is because in the Google Analytics documentation, I see that the name of the event is just login. But for example, let's say that if I had some additional data about the login, let's say the method of logging in, because maybe some visitors have logged in with email while others have logged in with a Google account or something like that, then I could send an additional parameter, which is called method. And in this field right here, I would insert the variable that returns the login method. Now, how do I know that this parameter is exactly method like this? Because it is mentioned in the documentation. So we have a login event, and if I want, I can additionally send a parameter called method. Now, this parameter is recommended by Google as well. But in my case, I don't have any login methods in the data layer because, well, the login page of my website has only one login method. That's why I will remove this parameter right here. However, if you have some additional parameters that you want to send to Google Analytics 4, you can just enter them like this. For example, let's say that when a user logs in, then you can also send the pricing plan of that user. In that case, you can enter the parameter called pricing plan. In fact, you can enter any parameter name that you want because that is the benefit of Google Analytics 4. The data model is quite flexible. So if you want, you can enter pricing plan, you can enter pricing, you can enter plan or whatever. This is your custom parameter, so you can send it whatever you want. Of course, there are some limitations regarding the length, but in general, you can name it whatever you want. And then if you have some variable in your Google Tag Manager container that returns the value of the pricing plan, for example, a data layer variable, then you could insert that variable right here by clicking this Lego button. But that is once again just a hypothetical example, and since I don't have any pricing plan data in the data layer, I will just remove this parameter. All in all, I will be sending just the event name, and that is all. Then in the triggering section, you should select the custom event trigger that you have just created in your Google Tag Manager container. If you are not familiar at all with data layer and custom event trigger, I will post some additional resources in the description of this video. Let's name the tag and then save it. Click save. Now it's time to test. So if you want to start seeing these changes in your preview mode of Google Tag Manager, you should click preview button once again. Then your preview mode will be reloaded. First of all, you will see that the page view will appear right here. Then let's log in. Click login right here. Go to Tag Assistant. This is the preview mode of Google Tag Manager. you will see the login event right here. And then if you click that login event, you will see that your GA4 tag has fired. Now let's go to Google Analytics. And then in the bottom left corner, click Debug View. And then eventually you will see the login event appear in the stream as well. However, keep in mind that there is some delay and this did not appear for me instantly. If I recall correctly, I even had to refresh the page and refresh the preview mode once again just to start seeing the event in the preview mode. I mean, in the debug view of Google Analytics 4. So if you click this event, you will see some additional parameters that were sent together with that event to Google Analytics 4. The next topic that I want to talk about in this video is custom events. If you want to track some events on your website and send them to Google Analytics 4, and those events are not covered by automatically tracked events, enhanced measurement, or recommended events, then you can create custom events. So this means that you can name them whatever you want. I mean, there are still some limitations and some rules. For example, there is a length of the name limitation, which is max 40 characters. But what I meant is that you can name them whatever you want. It might be, I don't know, let's say form submission or contact form submission or something else, like whatever is relevant for your business. By the way, I will post a link to this page below the video as well. So let's say that we want to track link clicks on the menu item of the website, and we want to send them as events to Google Analytics 4. First, let's take a look at what kind of data can we get with Google Tag Manager related to menu item link clicks. So let's say that I will click the second link, which is catalog. I click it, and when I go to the preview mode, I will see that the link click has appeared in the preview mode of Google Tag Manager. Even though I don't have any link click triggers in my container, the link click tracking is available and it's seen in Google Tag Manager preview mode because I have enabled the link click tracking in the enhanced measurement of Google Analytics 4. So if you are seeing the link click event right here, that is a good news because you will be able to track the menu items right here. I mean, actually, maybe on your website they will look differently, but if you don't see the link click event right here, this means that you have disabled the enhanced measurement in your Google Analytics 4 and you don't have any link click triggers enabled in your container. So if you have enabled at least one of them, then you will start seeing link click events right here. So once I click the link click event in the preview and debug mode, and then I go to variables, I should be looking for some click related variables, but I don't see any. That is why I need to go to Google Tag Manager. I need to click variables, and in the built-in variables section, I need to click configure and enable all the click related variables right here. Then close, and when the loading saving disappears, then I should refresh the preview mode once again. So I click the preview button again, and then I go to, let's say, to the catalog, and in the preview mode of Google Tag Manager, I see that the link click has occurred, and in the variables section, we have some information about the click. I can see that it might be useful for us to have the click text or the click URL. Maybe click URL is a better option because if someone goes to your website and then uses the browser's translate feature, the click text value will change, but the click URL will remain as it is. So let's say that we want to track click URL. I mean, we want to send this value to Google Analytics 4. And also we need something that will help us to distinguish that the click that happened on a website is not just any click, but actually the click that is related to the top menu right here. So let's say that I will click one link, then another link, then another link, and you will see a bunch of link click events in the preview and debug mode. One link click, the other link click, one more link click. Actually, it's missing, not sure why. Let me just click once again. Okay, so now I have a bunch of page views, and on every page view there is a link click. So I click the first one and I see that the variable called click classes, it contains the following value: navlink, site navlink main. So navlink, in this case, this means navigation link, or in other words, menu link. Then if I click the next link click event, so this was clicked on another menu item, which was called blog. we see the same value right here. Then if I go to another link click, the same value, and here the same value. So what we could do that we could use this click classes variable as a way to distinguish the click and identify that the click was precisely on one of the menu items on the website. So what could I do is that I could, let's say, copy this part, which is site navlink main. I can copy without any spaces or without quotation marks, and I will use that in a trigger within Google Tag Manager. So I should go to Google Tag Manager, I go to triggers, and now I will create a trigger which will instruct Google Tag Manager to fire a tag. Well, of course, I will create a tag a bit later, but that trigger will instruct to activate a tag when a link was clicked and that link contained that very particular click class. So go to triggers. By the way, I have these triggers from some previous tutorial, so please ignore that. Accept the login. Then click new, trigger configuration, just links, and then some link clicks, click classes contains this part. So if the link that was clicked contains this value, then Google Tag Manager will presume that that link is a menu link. Then let's name the trigger and click save. Then let's go to tags and create a new tag for the menu link click event. Then go to tags, new, tag configuration, GA4 event, then select our configuration tag, and then in the event name, you can enter whatever you want. But looking at the recommended events or automatically tracked events in Google Analytics 4, it looks like the best naming convention, actually the syntax of events could look like this. All lowercase letters and words are connected with the underscore, something like this. If you enter some uppercase letters or some spaces, that will work fine as well. But the data looks a bit more structured and cleaner if you follow the naming convention, the actual principles of naming of Google Analytics 4. So that's why I would recommend entering all lowercase and connect it with the underscore. This is also known as snake case. Then let's say that we want to send some additional custom parameters together with this event. For example, maybe we want to send the name of the menu item, the text, and also we want to send the URL of that item. If we take a look at Google's documentation, you will see that they already recommend some of the parameters such as link classes, link URL, link text. But let's say that in this case, we are not going to use that one. Instead, I just want to show you how to configure totally custom parameters with your event. So let's say that we want to send menu link text and menu link URL. That's why we should go to event parameters right here and then expand it and then click add row. Now we're going to enter the first custom parameter. And then enter one more parameter, which will be menu item name. So this will be the text of the menu item. In that case, we can use two variables that are built in Google Tag Manager. So when we clicked any menu item, we had two variables that contain some information such as click text, which is the text of the link, and then the actual link. So we could use this as a menu item name, and then this one as a menu item link. Once again, you could use the recommended parameters such as link text or link URL. That is fine. Right now, I'm just showing you a general process how to create custom parameters. So speaking of menu item URL, you could click this button to insert a new variable. And here we will choose click URL. So this will return the URL of the menu item. And then in this field, we will enter click text. If you want to track a custom event and you want to send more than two parameters, that is absolutely fine. You can send 5 or 10 or 20. At the moment of recording this video, it is allowed to pass up to 25 custom parameters with a single event. Maybe in the future that limit will be lifted, I don't know. But right now that is the limit. In fact, you should always refer to a page where you can find the up-to-date list of configuration and collection limits in Google Analytics 4. As always, this link will be available in the description of the video. All right, so let's go back to our Google Tag Manager container. We have configured the event. When this event is sent, together with that event, we will send the click URL and click text. And these are the parameter names that will be displayed in Google Analytics reports a bit later. And then in the triggering section, we should click anywhere or on this pencil icon and then choose the link click menu item trigger. Finally, let's name the tag and click save. Now it's time to test. Click the preview button once again to refresh it, and then click one menu item, then another, and so on. So I have clicked 2 menu item links. This is the first one, and I see that my tag has fired. Oh, actually, this was the second click. The first click was here. I can click on the tag, and if I switch to values, I can see what kind of value was sent. And I can see that the name of the event was this, and parameters were these 2 parameters, one parameter, and then the second parameter. Now let's go to the debug view of Google Analytics and check whether that event was received by Google Analytics 4. Then I go to Google Analytics, I go to debug view, and then I see that my event has not been received yet. So I don't know, maybe we can refresh the preview mode once again. Click the link here and click the link there and maybe here, and then go back to the debug view of Google Analytics once again. And only after a while that information, that event started to appearing in my debug view. In fact, I had paused the video maybe for like 5 minutes or so, and only then the menu click events started to come in. So I'm not sure in this case whether this is going to happen always like that, or maybe this is just a temporary bug that will be fixed at some point in 2020. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, so when I find the menu click event right here, I can click it, and then I will see 2 additional parameters that I sent to Google Analytics. One is menu item name, and that is name of the link. And then this is the URL of that menu item that was clicked. So once you start seeing your custom event and custom parameters right here, that is a good sign, that's a good thing. And then after 24 hours have passed, you will start seeing your events in the all events section of your Google Analytics reports. At the moment, I don't have any events. Maybe you don't have any as well. So that's why the list is empty. But after 24 hours or a bit earlier, you will start seeing your events right here. This includes events like scroll that is coming from enhanced measurement, maybe some recommended events, and also your custom events will be displayed here as well. Here I have another test property of Google Analytics 4, and here we see some events that are coming from enhanced measurement and also are automatically tracked by the tag, for example, first visit or session start. And here is yet another property where in the list of all events, you can also see some custom events that I have sent to Google Analytics 4, and menu click is one of them. So if I wanted to see more data about the menu click, I could click this event right here and some reports would be opened. Although at the moment of recording this video, the basic reporting capabilities in Google Analytics 4 are still quite limited. Maybe in the future they will be improved. One more thing that is related to custom parameters. If you want to use your custom parameters that you send together with events in your reporting, then you will need to register them as custom definitions. In other words, if I want to use the menu item URL and menu item name custom parameters in reports, I have to go to all events section and then click manage custom definitions button right here. And then when I click that button, I need to create custom dimensions right here. And if you want to create custom metrics, you should switch to custom metrics right here. But right now I'm interested in creating 2 parameters. So this is custom dimension, and let's click create custom dimensions. And then I need to enter the parameter name. Since I have sent 2 custom parameters with the menu click event right here, which are menu item URL and menu item name, I need to create them as custom dimensions in the Google Analytics 4 property. And you don't have to wait for 24 hours or so just to enter that parameter name. If you know what the parameter name will be, and in this case we definitely do, then you can just enter them in the Google Analytics 4 interface. So let's copy this parameter name and enter it like that, save it, and then let's create another custom dimension, copy the second parameter name, and then enter it like that. Now we have registered both custom dimensions, and within 24 hours, they will start appearing in your reports of Google Analytics 4. This is a necessary step if you want to see these parameters as dimensions in your Google Analytics 4 reports. And once again, keep in mind that these changes will take time, up to 24 hours. And once you click that event, then you will start seeing additional cards for those parameters right here. Because if you don't register them as custom dimensions, you will not be able to see this card or this card in the report of MenuClick. I really hope that in the near future, Google Analytics 4 will introduce more capabilities for basic reporting features in the interface. Because right now, what I have found is that you can find these custom parameters in the report of that individual event. You can also find custom parameters in places like, let's say, Analysis and Analysis Hub. And then if you go to Exploration, you will be able to find those custom dimensions in the list of dimensions right here. So for example, I can add this to my report as well. But keep in mind that in this video, I am focusing solely on the setup and sending data to Google Analytics, not on reporting or analysis. So maybe that is a topic for another video in the future. By the way, speaking of reports where you can see your event data in general, there is another section in the GA4 interface. You can go to engagement and then events. And right here, you will see some data about your events as well. But as I've said before, this video focuses more on data collection, not data visualization or analysis. So I just wanted to give you like quick pointers where you can find that data. But in general, I hope that in the future, the reporting capabilities will be better in Google Analytics 4. And in the meantime, you can see some more basic data right here. Also, you can do your own research and find out how to analyze this data with BigQuery or Google Data Studio. And then the final two features that I wanted to mention in this video are create new events in the GA4 interface and then modify events, because maybe for some reason, some of the events contain incorrect parameter names or event name. If you log into your Google Analytics 4 property and go to all events, you will see two buttons right here. Actually three, but right now let's focus on these two. So there is create event and modify event. Create event should be used when you want to create a certain event based on other event with some particular parameter values. For example, if you want to mark a page view as a conversion, if you mark it right here, then it means that all the page views will be treated as conversions, and that is not what you probably want. But what if you want to mark a certain page view as a conversion? For example, only when a visitor lands on a page where URL contains thank you or something like that. Then you could create a new event based on the page view. So let's take a look. Let's imagine that the URL of a thank you page on my website is analyticsmania.com/thank you. And I want to track that thank you page visit as a separate event. Of course, I could do that with Google Tag Manager, but I can also do that from the interface of Google Analytics 4. In order to do that, I should go to all events section in my Google Analytics 4 report and then click create event. Then I should click create, and then I should enter the configuration of the event that I'm about to create. First, I need to create the new name for my custom event. For example, let's say that I want to name that event thank you page visit or something like that. And then I need to enter the conditions of the existing events. So for example, if I want to treat a certain page view of a certain URL, then I need to enter those conditions right here. So first of all, if the event name equals to page view, and you need to enter that precisely as that event is displayed in your Google Analytics 4 reports, but I don't want to treat all the page view events as a thank you page visit. Therefore, I need to add an additional condition where page location, in other words, this is a URL, contains /thank you/. Because as I've said, let's imagine that this is the URL, the part of the URL of my thank you page. And then you can select to copy all the parameters of that particular page view event, and they will be also reused in the thank you page visit event. So in my case, we can leave it as it is and then click create. And then after a while, so probably once again after 24 hours, you will start seeing your custom event. For example, in my case, that is thank you page visit in your reports. And if you want, you will be able even to mark that event as a conversion. But once again, keep in mind that the custom event that you have just created, it will start appearing in your reports only after 24 hours, or maybe a bit less, but it will not appear in real time. And then there is another option, which is called modify event. Now, modify event is useful if, for example, you have an event or maybe a bunch of events that are maybe named improperly, or maybe they contain some parameters that are not named properly, and therefore your data is a bit chaotic. For example, here in my case, I have one event which is page view, so this is the correct page view event, and then for some reason, and I actually have no idea why, we have another event which is page view undefined. So what I would like to do in this case is that I would like to modify this event and rename it to just page view. Therefore, these two page views would be added to this total number. And we can do that with a feature called modify event. So let's click modify event and then click create. First, let's give this modification a name. It will not be displayed anywhere in your reports. This is just for your internal use. So you can name it like fix for and something like that. And then we need to enter the matching conditions of the original event and then how we want to modify that event. So we have the matching condition. So we need to identify all events where event name equals to this event. So this is the incorrect event. And what I would like to have is that I would like to modify this event and turn it into a new event where event name equals just page view, like that. So this event will be turned into this event. And then just click create. And that is about it. If you want to fix some events, modify event is one of the ways to go. The other way, of course, could be fixing problems in the code or in Google Tag Manager. But if you have some problems and you cannot fix the incoming data from your tagging tool or from your code, then modify event can definitely be a quick time saver, or at least the option how to implement a hot fix. And then after a while, you can properly reconfigure your tags in Google Tag Manager. If you want to learn more about modifying and creating events from the Google Analytics 4 interface, I'll post a link to a guide below the video. And in that guide, I explain how to track events in general with Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics 4. So to sum up, when you plan to implement event tracking with Google Analytics 4, first you need to check whether that event is not automatically tracked by Google Analytics 4. If not, then check maybe that event is tracked automatically by the enhanced measurement. If not, then you should check the list of recommended events and use Google's naming convention. Because according to Google, if you follow the recommended naming convention, Google Analytics will better understand what that data is. And in the future, when new reporting features will be introduced, then that data will be displayed in proper reports. Because otherwise what will happen is that you will be implementing custom events. Now, if you plan to track a certain event and that event is not covered by any of these three event categories, then you can implement custom event tracking. Just keep in mind that currently there is a limit of 500 unique events per property. In other words, you should not create too many unique event names for your setup. Speaking of automatically tracked events and enhanced measurement, they are not counted in that 500 event limit. Maybe in the future that limit will be increased, I don't know, but right now the limit is 500. And if you are migrating from the Universal Analytics setup to Google Analytics 4 setup, then I would not recommend just blindly migrating fields like event action, event category, event label to your new setup. Now is a good time for you to rethink your naming convention, your event structure, and start everything from scratch. I have some additional migration tips for events in my blog post, and I will post the link to it below the video. Also, in that blog post, you will find an example of a spreadsheet with events. That spreadsheet might give you some tips and inspiration on how to plan your new event tracking setup. You will find more information about this spreadsheet in the blog post as well. And that is how you track events with Google Analytics 4 and Google Tag Manager. There are really cool capabilities in the interface. For example, the ability to modify events or create new events based on other events. Since GA4 is event-based, these features definitely make sense. If you found this video useful, hit the thumbs up button below the video because it helps me continue working on this channel. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics, consider subscribing to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.